Hey everyone, and welcome back to the Movie Mates video. I am Matthew, joined by my wonderful co-host and best friend.
Callum.
Hey man, great to see you as always, dude. Now, today we're back with another mini review, our first mini review, I think, since Palm Springs, which is a month ago now. And as you said
Yes,
in that episode, 2020 has been a bit dry for movies, but
it, it's
this is
been
where
it's been rough.
this week is where it changes because we've got American Pickle review today, a Project Power review coming this week as well, and also hopefully Mulan and Tenet and Black Widow and Wonder Woman and all that coming soon as well. So it's gonna be good. This is where it kicks off for me. And yeah, do you want to give a little background on the film and what's it about, who's in it, that sort of stuff, just before we kick off? Because it's a bit of a cult film, I would say. It's not. I haven't seen many reviews online, so crack on
Yeah.
with it.
So this film's an HBO Max original. So it didn't debut widely, and of course cinemas are for the most part closed. So it didn't get a wide release. So that's maybe why it didn't reach as many people as it could have. But this film stars Seth Rogen in a dual role. He's playing himself, like he's playing his descendant and his ancestor. He's playing his great great grandfather, and then his present self. Not of Seth Rogen, but of the character that he plays, Ben Greenbaum. And we'll be talking about this film, and it's a weird film.
It's a very
You
weird
know,
one, yeah.
I suppose just inherently as it has the dual role, which is quite rare. We've only really seen that a few times in film. There was Armie Hammer playing the Winklevoss twins in The Social Network, Paul Rudd playing himself and his clone in Living with Yourself,
Jack and
Mark
Jill.
Ruffalo, yeah, Jack and Jill. Oh fucking hell. Mark Ruffalo played himself and his twin brother in a film. Again, the twin brother of his character in the
Tom
film.
Hardy.
No, sorry,
Tom Hardy and
it was a.
Legend.
Oh yeah, Tom Hardy and Legend. Sorry to correct myself, Mark Ruffalo. It was a limited TV show. For Mark Ruffalo.
Lovely.
But yeah, this isn't a thing that happens that frequently, but it's sort of been booming recently, sort of since 2018, 2019. Actors for some reason like to play two characters in one film.
Can't
Double
get
the
enough of it.
paycheck.
Yeah, for the paycheck, double the money, double the role. You know what I mean?
Yeah, so I imagine this is going to be probably one of our shorter mini reviews, just because not a lot happens in this film. We're doing the standard spoiler review, but nothing that I say will ruin your watching of the film if you haven't seen it already. We'll maybe be talking like for 5 to 10 minutes. I really don't think anything that we say is going to drastically affect
Sure.
your watching of the film. So if you want to listen through to this, I don't think there's going to be a movie ruiner or a movie
No,
ruining discussion point.
all of my points are non-spoilers, to be honest with you, man, because there is no massive spoilers. There's no world-ending cataclysmic event. It's just a man likes some pickles.
Yeah, it's just a sweet, intimate, small scale tale. There's
Mm.
nothing world shattering. There's no surprise revelations or twists in this film. So if you want to talk about just the fact that Seth Rogen is playing a dual role, are you a fan of that, or do you think it's a cheap gimmick?
I do. I think I really like Seth Rogen. I've loved him since 50-50, and I think he's a very talented comedian. Like definitely, don't get me wrong, he's definitely had hit or misses for sure. And I think he's probably I think he's very much a one trick pony for me. I don't think he has the biggest range at all. Like the Seth Rogen role is just one role for me. I think this character is the same as the character in 50-50, in my opinion. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I think just because he's a funny guy, even when he tries to do a dramatic role, the comedy shines through. I think just because he's a hugely energetic guy, so yeah, there isn't much ability to distinguish between his roles just because he's playing himself. There doesn't seem to be much
Sure.
difference between the characters he plays and himself. So
He's still great though. I'm a
I
big
think it's just
fan.
because he's a warm and enthusiastic guy.
Yeah.
But I think that the fact that this trend of actors playing two roles, I think the reason that it works for the most part is because they seem to always be doing it with comedy actors. They had Paul Rudd, as I said, Mark Ruffalo, and Seth Rogen. So it's funny actors. So it's a funny visual to see them acting side by side with themselves.
It is, yeah.
So I think sort of like it's a funny premise, and then when they
Yeah,
actually
man.
act it out, I think that's why it works.
I definitely think it's a potential podcast episode as well one day. Like I know it's not like an actor playing themselves, but the Joseph Gordon-Levitt film Looper, where it's like him
Ugh,
and but he's got like weird prosthetic makeup on as Bruce
oh,
Willis.
it's
It's
gross.
so weird.
Yeah,
It's so
I hate
weird.
it. I thought you were gonna say was that you were gonna do a dual role podcast where you just edit yourself talking to yourself.
Have you ever seen that? It's like a 2 minute video of like Joe Rogan. Joe Rogan interviews Ro Jogan. No,
I
it's
haven't,
so
but I
good.
can 100% like picture you doing that. Like,
Yeah, like
I
Matthew.
was gonna say your name.
That's
I'm
fine.
not gonna say your name.
It's known in the podcast anyway. I put it in
Just
the description.
Matthew Mess. Okay, so the opening sequence of the film shows Herschel 100 years ago in his country of origin as a humble ditch digger, and I think the opening sequence is very clearly inherently comedic, but it also sort of has this introspective feel where it has you look at your own privilege when we're told about their sort of humble American dreams. You know, they just wish to be buried in a nice place and to
The simple life.
have one taste of the finer things. Sort of. So it sort of has you like look at yourself and be like, oh, I'm lucky to have what I have.
Yeah, that's such a great point, Callum. I agree. It really makes you appreciate things a lot more, especially with like Herschel's sort of like working class attitude to life and stuff. And the Herschel Sarah romance, it's so sweet, yet it's so charming and funny as well. And it's so short in the film, but it's a really nice sort of fleeting moment between the two. And yeah, I think you've hit the nail on the head there, buddy, completely.
And I think we'll be talking about stuff like we'll be going because it sort of abruptly changes timelines. It goes from 1919 like 2019 very quickly. It
Mm,
does a very drastic shift. So I think that our
sure.
review shift will also be nearly as drastic.
Yeah.
But we're introduced to the character of Ben, who is the great grandson of Herschel. And he is wanting to launch this app. And I sort of saw in the notes that you had written, and I had here, that how does this app not exist?
It's so good. It's so good.
It's honestly one of the best ideas I've ever heard. Like for the modern Gen Zer, people are desperate to know what are the most ethical websites to use. People are sort of boycotting Weatherspoons and Urban Outfitters just because of the I don't know the full details, but just what the labor they use or
Hmm.
the treatment of employees. There are certain
Yeah,
brands these days that are just completely boycotted by people.
I agree, mate. Yeah.
People are trying to find ways in which that they can avoid using Amazon and apps like that. So if there were an app to rate other apps on their sense of ethics and morality, like that would be one of the biggest apps of
I
all
agree,
time.
Callum. Absolutely, dude. I think that's partly out of the reason why shops like Lush are so popular as well.
Yeah, yeah. They're definitely very respectful of their employees.
Absolutely,
So
and the
I think
environment as
yeah,
well. Yeah,
people do seek out employment in those kind of areas.
for sure, dude.
And Herschel sort of sabotages Ben's intentions of releasing this app by accidentally getting him a criminal record.
Yeah,
And I quite liked Ben and Herschel from the start, and I was hoping it would be like a wholesome tale without animosity. I was from the start, Ben seemed happy to see Herschel and vice versa. So I was like,
yeah,
oh, this will be a sweet tale where they just are instant friends and they stay friends, and for once we won't see this sort of animosity where they don't like each other right from the beginning. And I was sad to see it sort of turn
yeah. I'm the
sour,
same. I'm the same, man.
at least for a portion of the film.
Yeah, I agree, buddy, to be honest with you. And sort of, it's I'm going to make a very strange point here, but sort of, Ben's sort of relationship with Herschel, it kind of reminded me, and it mimicked that of Star-Lord with the rest of the Guardians of the Galaxy. And the real origin of Boot Bop is this film's version of Star-Lord's name from Guardians of the Galaxy in many ways. It really reminded me of that. And I don't know if you agree with that, man, but it's sort of say, in Guardians of the Galaxy, Star Lord, he gets along with everyone initially, but then there's sort of like the conflict that is there throughout the film. So I thought that there's definitely, and obviously both are very humorous characters, and obviously the twist of the end of Boop Bop and then Star Lord as well. But no, I agree with you, man. It was sad to see.
Yeah, and both of them they do sort of break apart. There's the separation of the family, and both of them go about revenge in their different ways. Herschel just decides to become a massive success to sort of bring Ben down emotionally, and Ben goes about just ruining his business instead of just improving himself. So I think if you're speaking in an ethical manner, Herschel was more in the right, at least in how he tried to
Yeah,
handle things, because he kind of just got successful and went fuck you, Ben, which is sort
yeah,
of the nicer way to go about it rather than I'm going to tear you down. So
yeah,
I was sort of for the most part I think Herschel did deserve to have his empire brought down because he was I mean it's hard to say that he was a bad person because we're also judging him by modern standards, because he never had a chance to learn because he's just been plunked in this time period with values that he's unfamiliar with.
Hmm.
So it's easy to say that if a person from this time today had those views, they are a bigot. Objectively, they have bigoted values. But it was difficult to assess that here because this is not
It's
a
a great
scenario
point.
that can happen. We're not going to have someone from 100 years ago pop up right now, because I feel like people wouldn't judge him with, well, they wouldn't scrutinize him to this
Yeah.
degree.
It's so interesting, man. Like, I wonder in 100 years' time if society becomes even more liberal than it is now. Like, would people consider us bigots? Like, it's so weird to
Yeah,
think about.
like,
But
do you
they
think a hundred
probably would.
if a hundred
Probably
if a
would.
hundred years from now you just like landed in 2120, like, do you think that you could like assimilate yourself, or do you think that uh
It's hard
do you
to
think that
say.
people would?
I like to
Hmm?
think. I like to think. I like to think I could, but it's hard to say. Like it, you know, I don't know, because that's what I love about this film. It's such an interesting concept, and it's such a silly film. Like, even the title of it, An American Pickle, that's a silly name, but it works. It really works, and I think it's a really charming story. And obviously, with Herschel's business idea, it's quite smart as well. But that being said, I really think this film would have been better as a short film. To be honest with you, I think they really try to beef out that runtime.
Yeah, because the film's based on like a short story rather than a novel.
Yeah,
So you would think a short story, trying to adapt that into a full length film, even though this 90 minutes, it does feel like it goes for too long. I feel like some trimming. I think if they had edited it, I think they sort of want to strike a balance between the likability of Herschel and the likability of Ben. But I feel like with the way it was edited and it's sort of too long for its own good, you kind of don't like Ben for
agree.
a
I
large
agree.
stretch, where he's
Yeah,
sort of like maniacal and he's like looking at his laptop like, oh, how can I fuck him
yeah,
over?
yeah. Exactly,
It
man.
wasn't appealing.
Exactly. No, I agree with you, buddy. I agree with you.
I don't have anything further on the film, but I know you do, having seen your notes.
No worries. Well, the only points I was just going to conclude. Sorry, where I was going to finish off with was just to be in my conclusion with rating. So, mate, I'd love to hear yours, and so would.
So the film wasn't the outright comedy that I expected, but I appreciated the warmth that it exudes and the message of the importance of family. So in our typical fashion of rating, I would give the film a massive hit.
Love it, man. Love it. For me, buddy, I had a good time with it. It's perfectly serviceable. Very similar tone to the IT Crowd, which I can appreciate. I love that show, especially with the black and white style documentary and Herschel as well with it on the news program. I thought that was quite funny. Seth Rogen, um, I think I do prefer him in 50-50, to be honest with you, and I prefer him in Bad Neighbors. But here he's very good. And like you said, it's a great message about family. Although that being said, this movie had an $80 million budget, and I just think, what has that $80 million been spent on apart from good camera work?
I was gonna say it's probably mostly paying Seth Rogen.
Heads after we're gonna, yeah. But no, that being said, Jorma Taccone, always a delight as well. He's in this, and I had a good time with it. So 7.5 out of 10 for me, but perfectly good film.
Yeah. So would you share it with
Oh, sorry,
a
flip.
massive
Sorry, I
hit?
forgot. Sorry. Yeah, massive hit.
I was like,
Massive hit.
Matthew, you've forgotten our patented rating system. Like, how have you done this?
I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Yeah, 7.5 on massive hit. If you were gonna rate it out of 10, what would you give it, mate?
Out of 10, I did have a fun time. Seth Rogen, I think, is amazing. It is too long for its own good, so I'd probably give it an 8 or
Fair
an
enough,
eight and a
man.
half out of 10. How long have we been doing the massive hit piece of shit? Was it Toy Story 4
I
that
think it was
that,
back in
that
the day.
originated?
I think it was back in the day, man.
I,
Yeah,
I think it was either Dora and the Lost City.
it was a
I,
good
th-
idea.
I think I came up with it for Dora and the Lost City of Gold, but we were like, that's sort of outright a kids film. No one, like, no one's gonna go see that except us fucking weirdos that isn't like a
Mate,
parent or a child.
it's an absolute
But like
genius
Toy
idea. It's a
Mm,
genius idea
mm,
from yourself. I was thinking, right,
yeah.
as like, do you ever think about like names that we could have called ourselves? Because an idea was suggested to me the other day by a family member, like we called ourselves like the Flick Pricks or something like that. I guess quite good. Like,
I mean, Matthew, like you once suggested the cinema C words, and I was like, Matthew, that is filth.
future employers could be listening.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I was like, that's simply not appropriate, Matthew.
It's simply not. It's
There was like
yeah. I let
the
myself
film
down there.
friends, like
Yeah,
the
film
film
friends. I was
friends.
like straight for
Uh,
straight for that. But no, man, it's been a pleasure recording with you today. Hope you guys, if you've seen the film, please comment below. We'd love to hear your thoughts on it as well. And thanks very much, Callum. Thank you very much, everyone. Take care and bye bye.
Bye bye.